From snakes trying to get in the door to monkeys everywhere, here are 10 crazy animal invasions. Number 10. Desert locusts. The biblical plague of locusts is actually here. As if we didn't have enough already. Farmers in Embu County, Kenya are currently under siege by an invasion of crop-destroying desert locusts who are storming in from nearby Kitui County, throwing residents into a panic. It's the second wave of locusts to appear in recent times, eating the subsistence crops that locals depend heavily on to survive. They are currently appealing to the government for help eradicating the ruthless insects, which is urgently needed to avoid outright famine. Authorities in Kenya and other countries have been fighting a war on locusts ever since the creatures began infesting parts of East Africa en masse in 2019. Locusts travel up to 90 miles daily in massive swarms and are extremely difficult to control. They ultimately invaded 9 countries following an unusually wet rainy season, which produced prime conditions for reproducing. Some of these places, including Kenya, have not seen locusts in 70 years, according to the phys.org, and their infrastructures were not prepared to respond effectively to the crisis. Now that the second wave has arrived, better management methods are being developed, but the affected countries still have a tough road ahead of them when it comes to fully defeating invasive desert locusts. Millions of people will face disruptions to their food supplies, and nobody knows for sure when the invasion will end. Number 9. Nara Deer. As the novel coronavirus grips the planet, spreading like wildfire from one country to another early last year, things changed in ways we never imagined would happen during our lifetimes. Tourism and travel ground to an abrupt halt as people the world over were ordered to stop going to work and stay in their homes. Consequently, nature began to reclaim urban spaces and wild animals began appearing in places where they are not typically seen. Before the pandemic hit, it actually wasn't too unusual to encounter deer in certain parts of Nara, Japan, particularly in Nara Deer Park, where over 1,000 deer are known to reside. While they are technically considered wild, the animals have long relied primarily on tourists for food. They are not caged, and they freely come and go from the park and wander the city as they please. Once COVID-19 took hold and life in lockdown began, deer began leaving Nara Park in droves. With no tourists around to feed them, they were forced to leave their natural habitat and venture deep into the city in search of food. Locals witnessed the animals in unusual places, like train stations, and in various places throughout the city feeding on grass. While this wasn't the first time large numbers of deer roamed into the city, the uncertainty brought on by the coronavirus poses concerns for future management of the population. Number 8. Snake at the door. San Antonio resident Jose Perez encountered an unexpected surprise one June afternoon last year when he opened the door to his home to let his dog outside and found a huge rat snake coiled around the doorknob on the other side. The 4-foot-long reptile alarmed Perez at first glance, but upon taking a closer look, he realized that it was a non-venomous species. The snake luckily picked the right house. I was surprised but not scared because I knew she wasn't going to hurt me, Perez told My San Antonio. I believed she wanted to go near the bird's nest I have on my porch. The homeowner poked the snake with a long pole, causing it to slither away into the bushes without incident. Perez said he didn't mind if the creature decided to visit again. What a nice guy. Herpetologist Paul Crump from the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department confirmed with My San Antonio that western Texas rat snakes are harmless to humans, despite their tendency to scare people based on looks alone. But not all animals are safe from these reptiles, which grow up to 6 feet long and are commonly seen around people's homes in both urban and rural areas due to their tendency to feed on birds, small mammals, and chicken eggs. That aside, there's a good reason not to harm western Texas rat snakes, according to Crump, who said, "They are extremely beneficial to our ecosystem, and if you leave them alone, they will leave you alone." What animal would scare you the most if you found it in your house? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for more animal videos. Number 7. Seagulls. Australia is known for its unique, and oftentimes terrifying, wildlife, so it's no surprise that animals occasionally interrupt human activities there. Recently, during the Australia Open's Phillip Island Trophy match at Melbourne Stadium, a flock of low-flying seagulls repeatedly swooped into the court and disrupted a match between players Bianca Andreescu and Madison Brengle. One bird even robbed Andreescu of an ace when it flew at her, interrupting her delivery. While the players chased the seagulls off the field, workers were tasked with cleaning the droppings that they left behind, which presented a slipping hazard. The presence of seagulls at the Australian Open is nothing new, given their affinity for dumpster scraps. But there was no crowd this year due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, and the birds not only showed up anyway, they took the opportunity to explore parts of the stadium they normally steer clear of. Nevertheless, the game continued, with Andreescu nabbing a victory. Number 6. Marbled Crayfish. This might be the weirdest. In 2005, an unusual freshwater crayfish species began appearing in rice paddies in Madagascar. It was unlike anything farmers had ever seen before and spread quickly throughout the country. A decade later, German researchers determined that the species evolved over the last 30 years or so. Earlier this year, a Manga Bay article described these creatures, known as marbled crayfish or Procambarus virginalis, which emerged into existence when German aquarium breeders somehow produced the mutated all-female species. They reproduce by cloning, entirely without males. This is an incredibly rare trait to begin with, but it's hardly ever the only way a species reproduces. One generation of marbled crayfish is genetically identical to the next. These creatures are highly adaptable and they grow fast. Its presence in Madagascar could threaten the island nation's unique and fragile ecosystem, which consists of animals seen nowhere else on Earth, but locals have come to rely on the marbled crayfish as an abundant source of protein, posing complicated questions regarding how to manage the population. Some fishermen blame the species for their decreasing catches, while some rice farmers believe the marbled crayfish is destroying their paddies. But researchers know very little about its effect on the environment, and they are currently working to better understand the species' ecological impact. Number 5. Sheep. Last May, a video of dozens of sheep taking over the streets of Samsun, Turkey went viral, serving as one of many examples of how wildlife made its way back into highly populated areas where the streets went quiet amid quarantine orders. The flock of over 100 sheep invaded the city, located on the country's northern coast, via an empty highway at night after the local curfew took effect. While the animals seemed fairly relaxed in this unfamiliar territory, residents were alarmed. Seda Sezgin, who filmed a viral video of the sheep, told CNN, "When I went to bed to sleep, I heard voices approaching. I couldn't make sense of it at first, and I was scared because there was a curfew." Sezgin went on to say that she was utterly shocked to see the animals in the middle of the city on its busiest street, and that she even thought she was dreaming at first. Just a few weeks earlier, sheep had appeared at a McDonald's in the town of Embu County in South Wales. They weren't there for value meals, as the restaurant was closed, but were happily munching on the property's grass. Local resident Andrew Thomas, who took the viral photo and posted it on social media, told CNN it's actually fairly common to see sheep roaming through Embu Vale, but that he saw their presence at McDonald's as an opportunity to joke about how even the animals were experiencing fast food withdrawal. Number 4. Feral pigs. NBC News reported late last year that Vietnamese pot-bellied pigs are overrunning Puerto Rico by the thousands, invading people's gardens and garbage cans and leaving their waste behind. Roughly 5 years ago, residents began buying the species as pets. Following Hurricane Maria in 2017, some of the pot-bellied pigs, who can reach up to 250 pounds, broke out of their enclosures. They reproduced rapidly, leading to the ongoing crisis that caused the Puerto Rican government to declare an emergency in 2019 so they could obtain federal assistance managing the population. The invasive species is difficult to control. Vietnamese pot-bellied pigs reproduce rapidly, and they are known to carry diseases, so they can't be killed for food. A few years ago, crews came in and killed around 500 of the animals, but this barely put a dent in the problem. Officials are trying to come up with a new way to grapple with the pigs, which have been spotted in 67 of Puerto Rico's 78 municipalities. While these animals pose problems in some parts of the mainland US and other countries, their overpopulation is particularly out of control on the island. Besides overturning locals' garbage cans and eating their freshly grown produce, the pigs pose a safety hazard, sometimes becoming aggressive with residents. They also make tons of noise, making it difficult for people to live and sleep peacefully. Scientists are studying the best ways to eradicate the pigs, but have acknowledged that doing so could take several years. Their hope is to trap the animals and humanely euthanize them, although this proposal is receiving rampant backlash from animal rights groups who want to see the pigs rehomed to a sanctuary. Number 3. LA animal shelter rats. Dog and cat adoption rates rose dramatically in many parts of the world during the worst of the coronavirus lockdowns, as people who were holed up at home longed for companionship amid the absence of face-to-face human interaction. In many ways, this is great news, but animal shelters are facing their own unique challenges during these unforeseen times. When the strictest measures were in place, many rescues were understaffed, leaving animals to languish with inadequate nourishment, veterinary care, and socialization. Moreover, These facilities sometimes became under-maintained, leaving them vulnerable to pests and other damage. Such was the case in Los Angeles, where Los Angeles Animal Services General Manager Brenda Barnett proudly announced the clearing out of the city's animal shelters due to increased adoptions, while reportedly silently battling a war against rats at these establishments. Writing for City Watch LA late last year, Phyllis M. Doherty alleged that rats had more or less taken over animal rescues throughout LA, where she said officials were having a difficult time eradicating the animals without breaking one of California's strict laws revolving around the matter. Moreover, Doherty asserted that shelters' no-kill policies might be compelling their staff to figure out a non-lethal way to get the invasive rat populations under control. Records obtained through the California Privacy Rights Act reveal that those involved in trying to conquer the rats entertained the prospects of both poison and oral birth control for female rats, but officials seem to be struggling to agree to a plan as the problem lingers or perhaps even grows. Number 2. Argentine Tegus. Florida is infamous for its invasion of animal populations, which include Burmese pythons, iguanas, lionfish, Cuban tree frogs, cane toads, and more. The Argentine black and white tegu is the latest species to join this seemingly ever-expanding list. Growing up to 4 feet long, these large lizards have an established invasive presence in South Florida and are rapidly spreading to other parts of the southeastern United States. The species, native to South America, feasts on a wide variety of plants and animals, posing a major threat to farms, local ecosystems, and endangered endemic species. These reptiles especially enjoy eggs, putting vulnerable marine creatures at risk. Tegus first established a wild breeding population in Florida over a decade ago, after a captive pet either escaped or was released, but they recently spread to parts of Georgia and South Carolina, according to National Geographic. The creatures have also been reported in Alabama, Texas, and Louisiana. 1 or 2 tegus making their way into the wild would not necessarily result in a breeding population, but what's happened now is the result of this happening too often. US Geological Survey biologist Amy Yackel Adams explained to Nat Geo that the climate in the southeastern United States is suitable for tegus, putting the entire region at risk. As climate change progresses, this area may grow. Number 1. Monkeys. In 2018, young capuchin monkeys made their way into the streets of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil from the surrounding hills. They terrorized residents of the city's southern zone, breaking into their homes to steal fruit and other food. They come in, make a mess, break and throw everything onto the floor, Tree Hugger reported one resident as saying. One investigation reportedly showed that the monkeys are organized in their attack methods, with one making a mock bird call to alert others that a home invasion is about to begin. Primatologist Christiane Rangel told reporters that these young monkeys are much like human youths in their tendency to be bolder and more fearless than adults. It's normal to see monkeys in the streets now and then, considering the area is located next to Tijuca Park, the world's largest urban forest. But it's unusual for the creatures to arrive in droves and carry out calculated home invasions and raids. It's possible that by feeding the monkeys, residents made them feel comfortable with, or perhaps even tempted by the prospect of taking food from humans, especially when facing seasonal food insecurity. As of 2018, the problem seemed to be growing. This has happened elsewhere. Earlier this year, over 3,000 macaques stormed through 2 villages in Thailand's Rasi Salai district. They came in packs of up to 200 and burst into homes in search of food, entering through doors, windows, and even roofs. While macaques have a long-standing presence in the area, their numbers have risen dramatically in recent years, the Bangkok Post reported. Meanwhile, their food supply was depleted, driving them to invade houses and even monasteries. Locals did not want to see the macaques killed off, but for their population to be controlled so that humans and animals could cohabitate more peacefully alongside one another. Thanks for watching. Has anything scary ever gotten into your house? Let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to learn more about animal invasions, let me know in the comments below and be sure to subscribe. Bye for now.